Pen and Ink. A story by Richard Keogh. And there you have it, the finished Pen and Ink. I hope you can join me, Marcus Wells, when we go... He paused for dramatic effect. Drawing from nature. He gave his self-assured smile and a wink, his stock in trade, at the end of his TV shows. And hold it for the end credits. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and cut. That's a wrap, dears. Basil, the camp director, resplendent in his mauve beret and matching outsized glasses, stood just out of camera shot. He turned and looked beyond the camera as he called out, "Dog trainer! Sandra dear, you can take William away now." Marcus's assured smile disintegrated and erupted in a dramatic sneeze. "Yes, get him out of here, stinking mutt!" Now, Marcus, love. You know how sensitive Sandra is, and she doesn't come cheap, you know, and William's so perfect." William, the obedient Springer, soggy from being sat in a turbulent water at Marcus's feet, remained motionless, waiting for Sandra's command. Even Marcus's sneeze did little to faze him, except for a quick sideways glance. "It's all right, Basil." Sandra gave Marcus one of her withering stares. She wore tracksuit bottoms and a thick padded jacket when out on a shoot, the epitome of a country girl. However, she was tall and elegant and had a very appealing face. Noticing Sandra's withering look, Marcus had enough time to raise his eyes to heaven before he was gripped by another sneeze. "He's wet, all right! Wet dogs do that to me! Temper! William, paw, say thank you to Marcus." Sandra was going to have the last word. The dog obediently lifted his paw and placed it on Marcus's immaculate jeans. "Get him off!" Marcus raised his hand to avoid accidental contact with the dog and issued another allergic sneeze. Sandra smirked. "Good boy, William!" And a Springer padded over to her, his tail quivering with pleasure. Marcus got up abruptly and tossed the drawing tablet over the stream, where it landed with a light thud and skidded to a halt by Basil's feet. He picked his way carefully across the driest part of the stream he could find. "Why do you find these god-awful locations? What's with that smelly mutt, anyway? Do I really have to walk around with him?" "Image, sweetie, image! You're a countryman, remember? You can't have a country artist without a dog at his side. Jack Hargreaves would spin in his grave. Actually, there are 1 or 2 issues I'd like to discuss with you." He lowered his voice clandestinely and leaned towards Marcus as he approached. "But not around flapping ears. I'll walk with you to the hospitality suite." A few yards away, a battered old caravan that had been wedged against countless gateposts by drivers with little skill in reversing stood near yet another damaged gateway. Marcus threw open the door, which banged against the bijou cupboard. The rickety structure vibrated like a hollow drum. "Hospitality suite," Marcus scoffed as he smelt the familiar damp rot emanating from somewhere under his feet. Amy, the make-up artist, startled by the sudden explosive intrusion, flinched, sending her emery board skyward. The tray of make-ups suffered a similar fate as she tried to recover her loosed emery board. Perfectly manicured fingernails got in the way as she struggled with the aerial contents. The entire ensemble landed with a clatter on the threadbare carpet amongst the muddy footprints. "I need 2 minutes, Amy dear." "But what about Mass?" "It can wait. We won't be long," Basil assured her. Harassed, Amy retreated from the scene of mayhem scattered on the floor, closing the door as quietly as she could. Marcus followed her backside with his eyes, his thoughts bringing a smile of anticipation to his lips. Another successful conquest. It was a perk of being a star of the show. Picking his way through the debris, Basil sat down in the dinette. He patted the cushion, inviting Marcus to sit beside him. Marcus obliged, but sat facing Basil across the table, that was scattered with identical pictures, each at a different stage of completion. So what's the problem? Marcus liked the direct approach. He liked even better back-footing his opponent at times when he sensed a conflict of interest. It's difficult to know where to start. These pictures. Basil picked up one of the partially completed pen and ink drawings hatched in over lightly photocopied originals. When are we going to get you to do a picture from beginning to end? Show the audience the process as the picture unfolds. You know I can't draw for toffee, but that's like painting by numbers, for goodness sake. Basil stabbed one of the pictures with his long, elegant fingers. That's exactly what it is, Marcus shrugged. But you hired me for my dazzling good looks, not for my artistic talent, remember? Mitch does the drawings. The agreement was he does the over-the-shoulder shots to show how the picture develops. I show the pictures at each stage, Mitch says what he's done, and I do the voiceovers. Oh, I might do a bit of scribble to make it convincing. He looked squarely at Basil and continued pointedly. That was the agreement. I open a show, Mitch does the drawings, I do the voiceovers at post-production, and I close the show. Done and dusted. We've got 3 more shows to do, and I can't see us having our contract renewed, dear. Basil ran his fingers fastidiously under the rim of his beret to tidy a strand of his long hair. I'll be out of a job. Fine. Marcus leaned back and crossed his arms. Now I've got TV presence, I'll get my agent to find me a spot on some crummy soap. Basil dismissed Marcus's comments with a raise of his eyebrows. And the other thing, dear, what is it between you and Sandra? You are getting on so swimmingly. We can't have bad feeling on set now, can we? You get them into bed, and the next thing you know, they want your ring on their finger. I don't do marriage. Besides, there are too many other women in the world to make love to. Oh, I wouldn't know, dear. Disinterested, Marcus looked out of the dusty window at the scene he had just faked for TV. Why don't you get Mitch to present the show? He's the artist. He's a total stumble-bum. Put a camera on him, and he's a mess. Oh, and that face. I mean, if Helen's face could launch 1,000 ships, he would have sunk them. Oh, you can be such a bitch sometimes. Oh, bitch yourself, dear. Basil tossed his head to one side at the insult. The door flew open, banging heavily against the bijou cupboard, and William bounded in, followed by Sandra. William padded over to Marcus, sat and raised a wet, muddy paw and rested it on Marcus's jeans, messy from the previous paw mark. There was no time for Marcus to object. An explosion of sneezes rendered him helpless against the onslaught that was about to follow. Sandra perched one cheek of her backside on the edge of the dinette table and looked down on Marcus with a malevolent pleasure. Marcus's tormented sneezes rendered him helpless as he grappled to get a handkerchief to his nose. Now, Marcus dear, what shall we call it? I thought chlamydia might be appropriate. What? Marcus managed to say in between sneezes. Do you want the good news or the bad news? Marcus sneezed again. Good! And he started another convulsion of sneezes. What do you say to being a father? The bad news is you need to visit an STD clinic. She coolly stood up and walked towards the door and looked seductively over her shoulder just before she exited. You're called, sweetheart. Sandra was out of sight when, with one command, William lowered his paw. Obediently he padded after her